up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Niners News here on 49ers Time. My name is Zach Hernandez. I'm joined by my friend Matt Llewellyn. Matt, how you doing?
Other than battling seasonal allergies, I'm good. Zach, how are you?
I hear you, man. I take that nasal spray twice a day. It sucks.
Today, I do the Allegro once a day. And we get through it with that. So
maybe I should try that one. Today, guys, we're going to be talking about George Kittle's contract situation, and more specifically, if we feel he is worth wide receiver money. Matt, do you want to start us off?
Yes, and my conclusion is no. I mean, as much as they want to pretend he's a unicorn, he's this, he's that. I know Daniel Jeremiah came out the other day and said that he could be worth up to $20 million a year. We're starting to get into ridiculous territory. As important as George Kittle is, and I love George Kittle, if he left the team, I would be very upset about it. As important as he is, there is a limit to what you can pay a tight end. And that's just, there's a reason why Travis Kelce makes $10 million a year, why Austin Hooper at 10.5, I believe, is now the standard bearer, and you're talking about a doubling up of that from Daniel Jeremiah. There's no way. He does bring a very fantastic skill set, but you're talking about resetting a market to a point that just, it doesn't happen that often. So for me, he could start by asking for wide receiver money, but I think he's going to slot in somewhere around $13 million a year, which will reset the tight end market for sure, but it's going to fall short of those top tier wide receivers.
It's such a difficult question because when I was researching this, I kind of thought he's way better than Austin Hooper. There's an argument to be made about Travis Kelce, whether you feel Travis Kelce is a better receiver. I personally feel George Kittle's an overall better tight end than Travis Kelce. But $20 million, man, that's a lot of money, especially for a team that doesn't have too much cap flexibility like the 49ers. It's tough. To be honest with you, I kind of thought of Pawn Stars, which is kind of funny, but just what you said, start at $20 million and work your way down. It's like those guys go into the pawn shop with an outrageous number they know that's never going to happen. And when in reality, they have about half of that as their goal to walk out the door with. I was researching the wide receivers 2020 contracts, and Julio makes about $20 million. AJ Green's making about 18. Mike Evans is at 17.9. Tyreek Hill 17.7. Sammy Watkins 17.25. This is per over the cap. And honestly, it just comes down to do you value George Kittle as much as these teams value these players? But also, kind of playing devil's advocate, each team's salary and the way that they're set up is different. So it's hard to compare just, one for one dollars to cents, it's completely different. Matt, I could definitely see them going at about 13, anywhere from 13 to 15. I think 13 and a half would be more than justified and a good contract, but maybe at a show of good faith, the 49ers might give it an extra mil or, backload it in some sense. But my question for you is, how much is the current situation with the pandemic going to impact the 49ers flexibility and being able to backload a contract or be able to just have that extra flexibility when negotiating?
I don't think the pandemic will have anything to do with it, really. I mean, it's just a matter of what you're willing to give George. And I think that maybe a viable alternative is, instead of, his average annual value being high, 13.5, 14, 15, whatever, maybe you try to talk him into 12.5 and just fully guarantee it for the length of the contract. In that way, he's getting financial security, and it keeps the team from being too flexed out in the cap, because we've seen what happens when teams overcommit. And you're talking about a number, $20 million. And again, this is coming from Daniel Jeremiah. We have no idea what he's actually asking for, but we're just going to go with the extreme, which is $20 million. And I can't believe Daniel Jeremiah, who, I respect, I can't believe he put that out there, because that's just patently ridiculous to say that a tight end is going to match Julio Jones, dollar for dollar. That to me is outlandish. And I know that George Kittle's unique. He can block, he can, catch passes, he's dynamic, and he's a leader of the team. He's the engine behind the team. For me, fully guarantee it. Let him know that he has financial security, that you want him on the team. But what you absolutely cannot do is do what some of these other teams have done. Again, like we've mentioned them before, the Los Angeles Rams. $20 million is roughly, I mean, off the top of my head, that's roughly 1/10 of the cap for one player. That's not how you're able to build long-term success. And as much as it would pain me to see George Kittle leave, that sometimes that's what happens, when teams are willing to overpay somebody on the free market. So if they don't get an extension done, that's definitely going to be, an option. Honestly, I think they'd franchise tag him first. That would bring them in well under what that asking price would be, without much recourse for George other than to hold out. But yeah, you have to be very careful with how much you're willing to commit to a single player, because I mean, let's face it, $20 million is only a couple million shy of what Jimmy G is making, and Jimmy G is the quarterback. So, for a tight end, a traditionally less valued position, a traditionally low paid position, as evidenced by, the highest contract being 10.5 per year, you have to be very careful with what you're willing to reset the market to. And I don't think that Parag Marathe and the regime are going to put out something that's completely ridiculous that people look at and go, oh God, why would they do that? They're very smart with their money. And so I definitely doubt that he doubles what the current top end for the tight ends are.
No, the only reason I asked about the pandemic going on is because I've been seeing reports that the cap is going to go down, mainly due to the number of tickets and fans and revenue from being in stadiums. That's likely going to go down. So that was kind of my reasoning behind asking that question. Don't
believe the hype on that. Honestly, most of the NFL's money comes from its TV deals. So yeah, you're going to lose revenue and stuff, but it's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what ESPN, NBC, CBS, and Fox put out to carry the games. And there was a report that they're going to increase the number of afternoon games that can be played in people's hometowns. So that's going to be a little bit different. There's going to be more exposure on TV. And I'm sure that the NFL and advertisers also understand that, hey, if fans can't go to the games, TV advertising is going to go up because more eyes are going to be on the product. It's one of those things where, yes, concessions are going to hurt. Yes, that, the ticket sales are going to hurt. But at the same time, you're also not paying staff to be there. You're not paying for the cost of food. You're not paying for the cost of cleanup on the stadium after an event is over. So there's a little bit of wiggle room. But most of the NFL's money is coming from the TV deals. So I don't expect the cap to drop. I say, if anything, it would be flat for a year and then continue its upward trajectory.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, actually. But, George Kittle, it's kind of tough comparing him to current tight end contracts right now because he's, like I said, so unlike majority of these guys, maybe aside from Travis Kelce. But you look at guys like Kittle, you look at guys like Gronk, Tony Gonzalez, Vernon Davis in his prime, arguably Travis Kelce right now. And these guys redefined what it meant to be a tight end all in their own way. So it's difficult to kind of look at George Kittle and hold him up against this, molding of what he should be and what he should make, because he shattered the tight end record in his second year, I believe. So it's tough for me to think comparing it to other players like Austin Hooper. If you were to tell me right now, would you give George Kittle twice what Austin Hooper's getting? I would say yes, but then at the same time, it's like he's getting 10 million and positional value is tough. So there's a lot of arguments to be made, and I do see both sides. I just think strictly from a team and roster building perspective, the 49ers can't put all their eggs in this basket. Like you said, that's getting pretty close to Jimmy G money, and Jimmy G needs to be the highest paid player. It could be, really tough. If not, the only really scenario that happens is where your quarterback isn't and you're a successful team is if he's on a rookie deal, which well, remember, George Kittle is. He's only made, a couple million per year thus far. So he's going to get his. It's just a matter of how much. Now, Matt, I asked Jose Sanchez III of Sports Illustrated when I interviewed him, is there any scenario in which this doesn't work out for the 49ers? And aside from a franchise tag, George Kittle's playing in a different uniform soon?
No, I mean, the franchise tag is going to happen. Absolutely, it's going to happen. They're not just going to let him walk for free. And you better be sure that if you are going to trade him, you're going to get significant value in return for him. But even then, because he plays tight end, the optics will be that they didn't get enough no matter what it is. So they have to hope that they get a long-term deal done. Otherwise, he's going to play out the last, I doubt, and for all the talk and all the tough guy scenarios, I doubt that Kittle would sit out and miss any actual game time. Maybe, miss some camp here, miss some camp there, and it's going to be a weird camp anyway. So who knows how that's going to work. But, he's not going to miss regular season games. He's too fiery a competitor. He's too important to the team as far as leadership. And, he's a set an example and follow through sort of guy. But they're definitely going to franchise tag him if they can't get him long term. And, to your point of Kittle shattering the tight end record, I mean, shatter is a relative term. It was less than, I believe it was less than 25 yards more than Kelsey on that season. So now you're talking about, well, how much more production is Kittle getting than Kelsey is? How much more valuable is Kittle than Kelsey? So you have to weigh it against who's there. And, of course, you always want to get more than the last guy, but you have to temper expectations on what you're actually going to get. And, again, it's early in the process. His agent's going to bat for him. That's what agents are for. We haven't heard anything from George, so who knows what's actually being said between, Parag and John and George. I'm sure they're all in contact, talking about it, trying to figure out what's going on. And, agents speak as agents speak. It remains to be seen what happens. But, this talk that he's 20 million or he's going to get wide receiver money, I think that's jumping the shark a little bit for a tight end, even one as important as George Kittle.
Okay, guys, I think we'll leave it there. Make sure you comment below. What do you guys think George Kittle is going to get? 20 million, 15 million? Do you think the 49ers end up franchising him if they can't get a deal done? Let us know what you think. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Our handles are below. And like and subscribe to the channel, please.
Go ahead and hit the bell for notifications. We're bringing you 49ers content all the time.
Thanks, guys.
Go 49ers.